debate with many contradictions. Before I get Jayanti and Natarajan in, let me get the view from the corporate world. Suhel, Seth, what do you make of this debate? After all, these were two ministers who were not using taxpayers' money. Ironically, if they were staying in official accommodation, they may have been spending much more of your and my money. Suhel?
So why do these ministers, or why are they forced to have apple juice in Rashtrapati Bhavan banquets when they actually prefer their tipple or a glass of red wine? For the same reasons that we in India have incorporated tokenism as a way of life. We have embraced everything about Gandhian on the surface, but perhaps there is no need to embrace the rest. I don't think it's a debate about these two ministers alone, and neither is it a debate about whether you need to be in five-star hotels having lunch. The fact is, hypocrisy prevails. Can we get rid of the hypocrisy? A. B. Why did it take an Indian Express report to goad Pranab Mukherjee into reprimanding two senior ministers into a very public action? So the reality, Barkha, is it's not about who's doing what. It's the mechanism with which you get away. And more importantly, shouldn't you in public life be leading by example, especially when the Congress and other political parties in this country make a fetish out of high morals with very low implementation skills? So to my mind, it's not about the Congress, it's not about SM Krishna or Shashi Tharoor, it's about the hypocrisy which we have invested our political classes with, and those poor guys are suffering whether they like it or not. Okay. So in public life, you've got to be like Caesar's wife, above suspicion. And if you can't be above suspicion, then you must have a Brutus stab you with adroitness, as happened this morning.
Okay, some very good points there about hypocrisy and perception. Jayanti and Natarajan, but first can you explain the rationale? Now, of course, we know that the CWC did talk about some austerity measures, including a salary cut. But what exactly is the problem here? Because these were ministers who were not using public money. They were using their own private money. This is a capitalist economy for the most part. Your Prime Minister is the architect of liberalization in this country. What does this mean? What does all of it mean, this reprimand? Jayanti?
Well, I really see it as a very simple issue. I speak, of course, for the party and not for the government. Clearly, the report in the Indian Express, as quoted in your report, was the story about two ministers living in five-star accommodation. Perhaps the government and the party felt that this was probably not a good sign or a good sign for the people at a time when we were in drought and the Prime Minister had recommended austerity measures, and therefore they were requested to move into surroundings and accommodation more appropriate.
But to Suhel's point, that why did it take an Indian Express report? If this is what the government believed, then it should have reprimanded them on their own. Why this public reprimand after a front page report in a newspaper?
Well, Barkha, I'm not very, I would like to again bring this discussion back to something very basic. It's something which appeared in a newspaper report, and therefore people came to know about it. Perhaps people were not aware. I don't want to sound flippant, in answer to a serious question. The government is not exactly occupied with checking on where the ministers are staying at any given point of time on a kind of a roster level. Perhaps they took this report to bring this to the notice of the leadership, and therefore action was taken. Okay, but the more germane point still remains why the action was taken. Suhel, if I can go back to you, one of the interesting things about netas is that they all wear khadi, which is about the only thing left over from the construct of Gandhian austerity. But elaborate on your point about hypocrisy. Where should this austerity stop? Should all MPs, for example, travel economy class? Should ministers not be allowed to have flashy weddings? Should we really be policing how politicians spend their wealth, and why? Because if you and I have the freedom to spend our money as we like, why shouldn't politicians have the same freedom? Suhel.
I'm in complete agreement with you, Barkha, but these people have straitjacketed themselves with a false sense of morality. They are the ones who go around with cocktail glasses full of Coca-Cola in public view and then have their favorite tipple. The hypocrisy is because the political class in this country since 1940 has been expected to behave in a particular manner. I'm all for freedom, but then don't talk about being an aam aadmi ki sarkar क्योंकि वो आम आदमी फिर पिसता है जब वो लोगों को ऐसी तरह देखता है. A. B. I completely agree with Jayanti. It's not a government's job to focus on these things, and believe you me, this is a much simpler issue, or it's trivial in the hierarchy of issues. Look at the expenditure that we've created for our political classes. Silly security systems for these guys who even the terrorists don't remember when they were prime ministers. So I'm saying there are a whole host of issues. I'm a great believer that Manmohan Singh, being the honorable man that he is, has led by example. He has chastised Indian industry. He has pleaded to people to behave in a manner that is equitable. And I think ministers, without any public reprimand or public attention, should have done it on their own. Are these the only two people are these the only two people responsible? No. Right. It is a malaise that afflicts a lot of the political class.
That's exactly what my question, Suhel, was going to be to Jayanti. Jayanti, you were disagreeing with Suhel, but I just want to add a question of my own. Why were these two ministers singled out? Surely hotel accommodation funded by them privately is not the only example of ostentatiousness. And can you clarify to us how far this austerity goes? Would you, for example, would the Congress like to see all members of Parliament travel economy when they fly?
You know, this is exactly what I was trying to clarify. I was just trying to say that, yes, I think it is important at a particular point in time when the country is under drought that the leadership demonstrates, we mean, we show our concern for the people not only through government policy, but by simple living, so that, it's very clear that our concern is there and very, very genuine. And at the same time, I don't think it's tokenism at all. I think it's something that is important for leaders to do. Why are these two singled out? Exactly because of a newspaper report that made it public. Where do we think it stops? I think that it is something that every MP and unless the party decides on, for example, a salary cut, I think every MP and every minister should take a decision on where it stops. I'm an MP, and I need to take a decision on where I should stop and draw the line so that I don't cross over the line of what does not seem appropriate public behavior as a people's representative.
All right, very quickly, Suhel, last words to you. Jayanti makes a completely reasonable point that this is personal. This is a personal decision. Everybody sets their own bars, much like they do in corporate India. Narayan Murthy still travels economy. There are other corporate honchos that are much more flashy. Isn't this completely personal?
Except that they are not in public life. They are not accountable to the people. And they are not setting false moral standards for the people. These people are accountable to the people, and the people look upon them as the so-called vestiges of public governance. So, to compare a Narayan Murthy with an S.M. Krishna is erroneous. Okay. Finally, don't throw the baby with the bathwater. The reality, Barkha, is, can we get rid of the hypocrisy in our system? No. Should we be attempting to do that? Yes. Will this help? I think it will. All right, and once again, it is the media that has goaded governance into the right direction, I would imagine.
All right, Jayanti, 10 seconds. What were you trying to say?
I was trying to say that what Suhel is making is a sweeping generalization. I think the main issue, it's sometimes a tempting political, a little bit of sensationalism to talk about issues like this. The real austerity lies in government spending, in revenue, in how the government spends its money and how the money reaches the people. But at the same time, it is important for politicians to show people that they have the good taste to understand the troubles that people are going through.
Jayanti, I must tell you that if the government had not acted and reprimanded these ministers, the media would not probably have thought this to be a story. So to that extent, the government has really brought more attention to this issue itself. But we'll have to leave it there. Jayanti Natarajan, Suhel Seth, thank you for your time as always on the Buck Stops here tonight. And what are you on our website saying? Is Gandhian austerity to be expected of the modern politician, and should it be? Well, 26% of you are saying yes, and more than 69, almost 70% of you are saying no.